experiencing life over searching for meaning. Do you think that one or the other requires more effort? Do you think it requires more effort to experience life or to search for meaning?
Most people try to do neither of those, which definitely requires less effort. It's like letting life happen to you. I used to think of those as they were the same thing, and only recently I'm considering the possibility that they are actually two very opposite things. I came to the conclusion at some point in my life that experiencing things was, in some way or form, the answer to the question of what's the meaning of life. But it doesn't really make much sense. Now I've reconsidered, and I think you get to a fork, and at some point you decide, do I want to focus on experiencing things, or do I want to focus on trying to find what is the meaning of all of this all around us? Searching for a meaning, to me, is not probably the best option, because I assume that I'm not gonna find the meaning. But experiencing things, on the other hand, gives me an idea of how to take the most out of this experience, where experience is life. Everything in the universe is made of energy, matter, so energy. Imagine life being like a wave in the ocean. All the energy is all the water in the ocean, but when there is a wave, only a tiny percentage of that water comes to life as a wave. So when this wave dies, when this person dies, all the energy, all the water goes back to the ocean and gets mixed with all the rest of the energy. And when a new wave comes up, it's gonna have some percentage, 0.0000 something of what the previous wave was, but the rest of all of that energy is going to be scattered all over the place, and it's going to be part of something else. So if you accept this point of view, it becomes obvious that we are all the same thing at the same time. So I'm you and the tree and the dog, because part of me and part of my energy could have been anything living in any place or time at any given point in history. And at that point, you realize that your life, this specific wave, has only one goal. And the best way to experience everything that this wave can experience and contribute at its maximum potential is to gather as much experiences as possible and learn from life, because it's like the essence of life. There is nothing else that our beings are capable of doing better than experiencing. Like, we are built to feel things.
Yeah. So it's interesting, because I think when you're looking at it, you have, there's two types of knowledge, right? You have a priori, which is knowledge that you gain through thinking about things. And then you have a posteriori, which is knowledge that you gain through experiencing things. And lots of times you can use both kinds of knowledge to get, to understand something, There's an old story that Socrates was trying to figure out how many teeth a horse had in its head by thinking about it, right? Well, it's not the best way to go about it. The best way to go about it is go open the horse's mouth and count his teeth, right? So I think that when it comes to experiencing life versus searching for meaning, I think that there are times to do each one. And like you said, being the experience of being a human being is all filtered through our senses. We see and hear things and we experience things that way. And your analogy about the wave in the ocean highlights the fact that some people have deep feelings about religion and meaning, but there's a very good chance that we're a very insignificant part of the universe. So this idea of searching for meaning, it's individual. Some people will say that that's the best thing you can do is search for meaning, and some people say it's a waste of time. There is no meaning, right? But experiencing life doesn't necessarily have to be, hedonistic. It's not just saying, oh well, we should just do whatever feels good until we die. I think that the best way to go is probably eudaimonia, which is an ancient philosophical concept that said, you shouldn't focus on just what makes you feel good, but you can't focus too much on what the meaning of life is. It's kind of like you said earlier. You just have to look at the context of where you are, and you have to try to live the best life that you can.
When I say experiencing things, it's not from a hedonistic or like Epicurean perspective. It's more like experiencing literally anything. So I don't try to experience only the things that I like or the things that give me pleasure. I try to experience literally everything. And what gives me pleasure in a way is the fact that I know that my goal is experiencing things, and being able to experience everything is what gives me pleasure. So learning how to enjoy doing things that I normally wouldn't do, in a way gives me pleasure as well, because I'm overcoming that difficulty and I'm enabling myself to experience something that otherwise I wouldn't have. It's more about like developing acquired tastes and learning how to do that, which gives you a much broader spectrum. Something I know that I like, and some other things I need to learn how to enjoy those.
The big one for me is exercise, right? If I go on a really hard run, it might not necessarily be enjoyable. And as a matter of fact, I might not make it through it unless I really focus on what I'm experiencing. That feeling of taking a deep breath, of trying to line up my breathing, just trying to look around at the scenery, feeling what I'm feeling in my legs. All these things, like you said, is there meaning behind them? Maybe not necessarily, but the experience of feeling them is something that adds a qualitative benefit to life. And like you were saying, just the idea of the things that you like and don't like, right? If you start thinking about them deeply. Okay, you like certain foods and you don't like others. Well, why? Why is that? And what you realize is that in some cases, it really just has to do with mental blocks that you've put in place rather than the objective experience of what's happening. It's kind of like you said before, earlier on. Does it require more energy to do one or the other? It doesn't really. Basically, what it boils down to is everybody has a certain amount of cognitive energy, and what they choose to spend it on is what they choose to spend it on. Right?
Exactly. Unless they decide not to spend it.
That was an interesting point that you made as well, right? Which is, if you think about it, everybody's experiencing life, right? We all, most of us have some sort of sensory perception. We can see, or we can hear, we can smell, we can taste, we can think. We all have the same faculties, but I think it's kind of our mind's filtering process, right? What things we're deciding to filter out versus what things we're choosing to examine and actually analyze. And you make a good point, which is that I think that especially with the world that we live in and, the short attention spans and the social media and this sorts of thing, I think a lot of stuff just goes through people's filter, and nobody's really taking the time to analyze or think about what the experiences that they're having.
Some people don't acknowledge reality because it's not worth their time, I think, or they think.